Jennair and Mark Gerardot appeared to have it all in the serene suburbs of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. They enjoyed successful careers, a strong social network, and seemingly lived the quintessential American dream. Jennair, a talented and ambitious woman, and Mark, respected in his profession, seemed like the perfect couple. However, beneath the surface of their idyllic lives simmered a cauldron of hidden challenges that would ultimately unravel their relationship. What began as a story of love and success took a dark turn, spiraling into one of betrayal and sorrow that shattered the tranquility of their suburban existence. Jennair Gerardot, formerly known as Jennair Cox, was born on December 19, 1970, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. She grew up there and graduated from Bishop Lewis High School, where she excelled in advanced courses. She then studied communication at Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis, and was involved in the college's theater arts and performances program. Jennair continued her education at Butler University, earning a BA in Communication and Theater Arts. She worked in various marketing positions for different companies in Indiana, including in Carmel and Indianapolis. For several years, she was the marketing manager at Circor Instrumentation. Jennair Cox and Mark Gerardot first met as teenagers in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in the summer of 1986. Jennair worked at Taco Bell, and her stunning blue eyes and big smile immediately drew Mark's attention. He felt speechless and a bit nervous around her. It wasn't until 4 years later that their romance started to blossom. They reconnected when Mark found out Jennair was working at a nearby mall. He visited her often, and one day, Jennair asked him outright when he was going to take her out. Mark confessed that he was shy, which she appreciated. Jennair's confidence and straightforwardness were a stark contrast to Mark's reserved nature. Melissa Murphy, Jennair's childhood friend, remembered how excited Jennair was when she first met Mark, describing him as the one. Jennair was ready to do anything for him. On October 23, 1993, Mark and Jennair got married. Mark was 25, and Jennair was 23 at the time. Their relationship had begun in their youth and carried them into a loving marriage. Mark talked about how happy he and his partner Jennair were, and how he couldn't picture his life without her. Like any relationship, they went through tough times in their marriage. Mark said their arguments could be intense, and Jennair usually won because she always had the final say. One of Mark's high school friends, Mike Hartman, said he didn't know all the details of their relationship, but he knew their emotions ran high. The couple had a strong marriage, but the 2008 financial crisis hit them hard. Money had always been a source of stress, causing many arguments. Mark later said that the crisis changed everything for them. In November 2011, they both moved to Greenville, South Carolina, where they found new jobs in marketing. With the new environment and frequent exploration of the state's beautiful mountains and beaches, Mark said they experienced a little bit of restoration for their marriage, which had brought them much closer than before. Everything was going well for the next few years until 2017, when their renewed life in South Carolina came to a halt. Jennair faced job layoffs and struggled to secure a new position. She lost confidence in herself and became much less strong than the woman she had once been. Around this time, the couple decided once again that it was time to search for new opportunities and a new beginning elsewhere. Finally, the couple decided that Delaware would be their new home, and immediately, Mark began his search for a job opportunity. He saw that the University of Delaware was hiring a creative director in its marketing department. If he is successful, he will be the supervisor. He sent an email applying for the role and received an instant message back from a woman 15 years his junior, who would be his new boss, offering him an interview. His concerns that a woman 15 years his junior would be managing him subsided almost immediately. This marked the beginning of Mark Gerardot's first encounter with Meredith Chapman. Meredith Chapman was a Pennsylvania native and 33 years old at the time. She was a graduate of the University of Delaware with a bachelor's degree in communication and a master's degree in education. Meredith was also married to a man named Luke, a former New York City councilman. The couple had married in 2009 and lived in Fairfield Crest, Delaware, with their dog Indy. When Mark attended his interview, he found that he was immediately attracted to Meredith, not only to her beauty, but also to her pure brilliance. He said, "When I sat across the desk from her, within 5 minutes, I didn't say it out loud, but I said, I've got to work for this person." He further said she was so articulate, energetic and passionate about the job, and she was accomplished at her age to be in the position she was in. "I was dumbfounded," he added. It appeared that Meredith was impressed with Mark because she immediately offered him the job, which Mark gratefully accepted. He moved to Wilmington, Delaware in November 2017, while his wife stayed behind in South Carolina temporarily to lease their home. Mark was excited, not only because of the move north, but also because of the growth in his career, not knowing that this would be the beginning of the end of his marriage with Jennair. Mark lived alone in Delaware for the first 45 days, while his wife stayed behind to arrange the rental of their home. During that time, Mark said he got to know Meredith well and stated that the two had a lot in common. One day, she asked him out for a drink. Remembering the events of the night, Mark said it was easy to talk to Meredith. Before they went home, he spoke to her about his marriage to Jennair, even though it wasn't necessarily in a negative way. He also told Meredith about losing his parents and his brother. Mark didn't know what was transpiring, stating, "I really didn't know what was happening." He went on to say, "I knew it felt amazing to be around Meredith, and I was confused by the feelings I was having. To be honest, until it became a little bit more forward with a dinner that we had. It felt more like a date." When he was with Meredith, Mark said the issues with his marriage also came into focus. It was during this time that Mark started comparing Meredith to his wife, stating how Meredith began to tell him that he was good at what he did and how wonderful a man he was, something he said he had never heard from his wife's lips. Mark was hopelessly in love, stating, "That just made an impression on me. Here's this woman, whom I think is amazing, saying that she thinks I'm a wonderful man." 1 month after meeting Meredith, Mark said that the two kissed for the first time. He further said that while the energy was there, he immediately felt awful for betraying his wife, and told Meredith that whatever was about to happen couldn't be because he cared for his wife. Nonetheless, he soon realized that he also couldn't give up on the feelings he was developing for Meredith, who, he said, had told him she was 9 years into an unhappy marriage herself. Mark said, "I felt enthralled. It was such a connection. To shut it down just didn't feel right. I had to at least find out what it was that drew us together." Before Jennair had joined her husband in Delaware, her husband and Meredith had already expressed their love for each other, with Mark saying, "It felt right to tell Meredith that I loved her, and it was a very powerful feeling." In December 2017, Jennair moved north, and Mark said she could sense he was distant. It wasn't long before she confronted him about her feeling that there could be another woman. Mark said, "She finally asked me, 'What is up with you? You're acting differently.'" He continued, "She said specifically, 'It's Meredith, isn't it?'" This was after Mark had mentioned Meredith several times when speaking about his new job. Although her husband denied the affair at first, Jennair would not let it go. She continued to question his relationship with Meredith, aware that there was something between the two. Jennair began to pay attention to her husband, making sure she knew what he was up to at any given time. He further mentioned that Jennair mysteriously knew things about him and Meredith that he couldn't understand how she knew. On February 14, 2008, Valentine's Day, Jennair finally got the proof she had been looking for. However, Mark's admission of an affair with Meredith came at a cost to Jennair, who admitted to him that she had hired a company to gain access to his phone, permitting her to read his text messages and view his photos and records of calls he had exchanged with Meredith. Mark admitted the truth to Jennair. He had indeed fallen for Meredith because he knew he could not keep up with the lie any longer. Heartbroken and refusing to give up on her husband, Jennair asked Mark to attend marriage counseling, which he agreed to attend. On the day of their second session, Mark said he was putting on his jacket when he felt something bulging in the lining of his coat. At first, he thought it was an anti-theft device, but upon opening the jacket, he found a recording device. It was recording him at that exact moment, with its lights already flashing. At that particular time, Mark was very furious and confronted his wife. In response, Jennair told him she wanted to understand the degree to which Meredith and he were involved in a relationship. She was determined that there was a plan between Meredith and him, and she was trying to listen to what that plan was. From then on, the relationship between Mark and Jennair would fall apart at an accelerated rate. Finally, Mark told Jennair that he planned on filing for divorce in May of 2018 after he had met Delaware residency requirements and could move out of their shared house. Things were going well during this time, especially for Meredith Chapman, who accepted a new job offer as the assistant vice president at Villanova University in Pennsylvania and relocated to Radnor Township, Pennsylvania, a part of the Main Line region. Meredith and her husband were getting divorced as well, so that she could continue to pursue her new relationship with Mark, and they could eventually be together. As Meredith and Mark's relationship grew, Jennair began to consult with divorce coach Sheila Brennan, who observed that Jennair harbored a significant amount of bitterness and anger due to her rejection and replacement by a younger woman. Having recently relocated to the north and yet to secure a new job after losing her previous one, Jennair harbored numerous fears of financial instability. Things seemed to go from bad to worse for Jennair, and all of this had destroyed her mental health. Mark recommended that she see a psychiatrist and also seek support from family and friends, as she had even threatened to jump out of the window. Jennair took the advice and seemed to accept the forthcoming divorce. Jennair approached her husband one day with a list of requests for the weeks leading up to his officially moving out. Mark said he believed that they had gotten through the worst things, but little did he know that this was far from the truth and that the worst was yet to come. Among the items on her list were going on hikes, having dinner, and generally spending some time together. Mark agreed to play along with Jennair's requests, stating, "It was odd, but I'm trying to land this thing so she is in a good place. If this is what she needed, then I was going to do that." Mark said his wife was acting normally for the most part, although she would occasionally break down and cry over the next few weeks. Jennair also began posting on the neighborhood app, Nextdoor, asking for recommendations for an excellent marriage counselor for a couple on the brink of divorce. She wrote, "We will need someone who is very educated and experienced in dealing with couples issues, including infidelity, depression, traumatic experiences, child-parent dynamics, and accountability for actions." However, in secret, she had been planning revenge. Mark and Jennair had scheduled a dinner meeting to discuss the divorce agreement on April 23, 2018. However, Jennair sent a series of messages informing her husband, who was already at the restaurant, that she was running late. She then sent him another text, telling him to go home because she wouldn't make it. As Mark prepared to leave, he received a picture from Jennair a few minutes later. She sent him a picture of trash with a condom in the middle, which made him believe she was searching through Meredith's trash can outside her home. He then received more text messages, one of which read, "You ruined my life." The next two messages that Jennair sent Mark read, "I hope you never find happiness," and another read, "Bye, Mark." Mark tried to text and call Meredith multiple times, fearing for her safety and afraid of what Jennair might do to her. Unfortunately, all forms of communication went unanswered. He rushed to Meredith's house expecting to find a fight between Jennair and Meredith, but when he arrived, he found something worse than he could ever have imagined. He found Meredith face down on her kitchen floor, with a pool of blood forming around her head. He also found his wife's body lying on the floor nearby. Mark stated, "It took 5 seconds and I screamed in obscenity and ran to her." He continued, "I just said, 'Baby, oh baby, what have you done?'" Meredith had just posted on Instagram about her new position at Villanova University, expressing how excited she was. Later that evening, she returned home to her Radnor Township residence and went inside, unaware that Jennair had broken in and was lying in wait. Neighbor Tim MV heard the noise and went to see what was happening. Mark told him to call 911. When Sergeant Christopher Four of the Radnor Township Police arrived, he described the scene as chaotic, with many officers on the scene. They placed Mark, who appeared distressed, in an ambulance and took him to the police station as a suspect. The police concluded that Jennair had broken into Meredith's home, killed Meredith, and then taken her own life after questioning Mark and investigating the scene. The day after the incident, police received a tip about a woman in a trench coat, hat, sunglasses, and possible wig watching the house with binoculars. They also found car keys at the scene that matched a Cadillac Jennair had rented. Mark was shocked to learn about the rented Cadillac, discovering most of the information from the police and news. She had rented the car 2 weeks before the incident and parked it near their apartment. Mark started digging deeper, reviewing his wife's financial records and computer files. He found that she had been living a double life. After Mark admitted to an affair around Valentine's Day, Jennair opened secret bank accounts and credit cards, using them to buy surveillance equipment, lock-picking tools, hacking software, and DNA testing kits. Mark mentioned that she also bought and attached GPS tracking devices to their cars. According to Mark, Jennair had over 400 images of private conversations he and Meredith had through text and Snapchat. She would access his phone at night while he was asleep, using his thumbprint to unlock it. Jennair bought a gun 5 weeks before the tragic murder-suicide and practiced using it at a firing range. Her husband, Mark, discovered that she had been secretly recording him by hiding devices in his clothes and keeping detailed files of hundreds of hours of audio. The night Jennair killed Meredith and herself, she emailed her family a letter explaining her motives. She had started writing the letter weeks before and described her actions as payback for what Mark had done to her. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, a psychotherapist, suggested that listening to the recordings might have fueled Jennair's anger and sense of betrayal. She may have become dangerous when she lost hope and decided to end her own and Meredith's lives in an act of vengeance. During a TV interview, Dr. Ozark revealed Jennair left a 15-page letter stating she would have killed Mark if he had walked in on the crime. Mark expressed regret for how he handled the breakup, believing he had broken Jennair's heart and contributed to her actions. Despite the tragedy, he still loves her and wishes he could take it all back. This story also underscores the profound impacts of betrayal and emotional pain, highlighting the necessity of addressing relationship problems openly and seeking help when needed. Furthermore, it illustrates the severe repercussions of mental health deterioration when left unchecked. Lastly, this cautionary tale stresses the importance of compassion, understanding, and preventive measures in mental health to avoid such tragic outcomes. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.